Serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And on this workshop, we ask that people pray along, if you can, out loud, depending on your circumstances, but stay muted. Thank you. Morning prayer. God, direct my thinking today so that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonesty, self-will, self-seeking, and fear. Inspire my thinking, decisions, and intuitions. Help me to relax and take it easy. Free me from doubt and indecision. Guide me through this day and show me my next right step. God, give me what I need to take care of any problem. I ask especially for freedom from self-will. I ask all these things that I may be of maximum service to you and everyone in my sphere. So this workshop today is for people who have completed the step 1 to 5 workshop and have completed the work that was required for that workshop. I know that there are other people on the call who have not done that. So you're welcome to stay as observers, but you're not going to get an awful lot out of this in comparison with those who have already done the preliminary work, but you are welcome. Thank you for joining us. As it's usual for people to be a little bit late coming on the call, we'll just give them a few minutes extra grace by saying together the Just for Today prayer, which is on page 22. Page 22, Just for Today prayer. God, with your help, just for today, I will try to live through this day only and not tackle my whole life problem at once. I can do something for 12 hours that would appall me if I felt I had to keep it up for a lifetime. Just for today, I will be happy. Most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. Just for today, I will adjust myself to what is and not try to adjust everything else to my desires. I will take my luck as it comes and fit myself into it. Just for today, I'll try to strengthen my mind. I will study. I will learn something useful. I will not be a mental loafer. I will read something that requires effort, thought, and concentration. Just for today, I will exercise my soul in 3 ways. I will do somebody a good turn and not get found out. If anybody knows of it, it will not count. I will do at least 2 things I don't want to do just for exercise. I will not show anyone that my feelings are hurt. They may be hurt, but today I will not show it. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as good as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courtesy, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. Just for today, I will have a program. I may not follow it exactly, but I will have it. I will save myself from 2 pests, hurry and indecision. Just for today, I will have a quiet half hour all by myself and relax. During this half hour, sometime, I will try to get a better perspective on my life. Just for today, I will be unafraid. I will enjoy that which is beautiful and will believe that as I give to the world, so the world will give to me. And now we'll just run through some of the step prayers on page 23. First step, page 23, first step. Higher power, I admit that I am powerless over my addiction. I admit that my life is unmanageable when I try to control it. Help me this day to understand the true meaning of powerlessness. Remove from me all denial of my addiction. Second step prayer. Without help, it is too much for me, but there is one who has all power. That one is God. May I find God now. Half measures avail me nothing. I stand at the turning point. I ask God's protection and care with complete abandon. Step 3. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. Thy power, thy love, and thy way of life, may I do thy will always. 4th step. Dear God, it is I who has made my life a mess. I have done it, but I cannot undo it. My mistakes are mine, and I will begin a searching and fearless moral inventory. I will write down my wrongs, but I will also include that which is good. I pray for the strength to complete the task. Second, fifth step prayer. God, I thank you from the bottom of my heart that I know you better. Help me become aware of anything I have omitted to tell another person. Help me to do what is necessary to walk as a free person at last. Sixth step prayer. Dear God, I am ready for your help in removing from me the defects of character which I now realize are an obstacle to my recovery. Help me to continue being honest with myself and guide me towards spiritual and mental health. The second sixth step prayer. I have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. I am now ready to let God remove from me all things which I have admitted are objectionable. If I still cling to something I will not let go, I ask God to help me be willing. So let's now turn to page 3 and look at the progress to date. So those of you who have completed steps 1 to 5 during a previous workshop are now ready to move into step 6. So step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Now there's not very much about this in the big book, but let's look at what there is. And this is reading number 43. Reading 43. I hope that my trusty wingman is on the call. And here it is. Thank you, Siddharth. If we can answer to our satisfaction, then we look at step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can he now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is to look at what I hope is a very long list of defects that you have uncovered. Just get that list in front of you. That's pages 11, 12, and 13 in your workbook. And just look at your list of defects and ask yourself the question, are there any of these that I wish to keep? Are there any of these that I am unwilling to have God remove? Now this is a difficult step because usually we have defects that have become very habitual to us. They have been very helpful in a way as ways of dealing with our feelings and coping with life. And now we're facing the prospect of humbly asking God to remove them. This is a challenge, but the important thing to understand, the thing that will help you to get through this step, is to understand that for every defect, God has something better for us. And that's why we write the assets on the opposite column, so that we can see what's on offer if we're willing to let go of a particular defect. So do you have a defect that you're unwilling to let go of? If so, what is it that God has which is better than that? And is that on your asset list? I had a big problem. I had a defect that I wasn't willing to surrender, and it blocked my recovery for about 5 years, the first 5 years in recovery. It was the defect of wanting to have sex with women I wasn't married to, and otherwise known as fornication. It's a good technical term. And I wasn't willing to surrender that. And of course, as long as I wasn't willing to surrender it, my recovery was blocked. When I became willing to surrender it, which happened on the 12th of April 1995, I then was able to move forward in my recovery. You may have a defect that you're not willing to surrender. And if so, well, that's the honest situation. I want you to be truthful about it. But do consider carefully, what does God have for you instead? So for instance, like faithfulness in a loving marriage instead of the defect of fornication, or even just chastity, purity. There's something better. What is it? Okay, so I'm now going to ask you the step 6 question. But maybe actually before I do that, I should just show you this and just see if this works. No, that's wrong. Bear with me. Okay, so in the WhatsApp group, I've put the earliest description that we have of the AA program. In fact, AA wasn't actually really called AA at the time this was written. They still hadn't come up with a name for it. But they were in action, and they'd actually been to a rich man in New York, John Rockefeller, and asked him for some money. And being a canny millionaire, probably billionaire, he sent an aide down to Akron, Ohio, to find out what was going on down there. And this aide wrote a report, which we're happy to have these days, because it tells us what the old timers were doing in the program in the early days, before the 12 steps were fully fleshed out, before the big book was written, right up front. So it consisted of 5 musts and 2 important but not vital. So number 1, an alcoholic must realize that he is an alcoholic, incurable from a medical viewpoint, and then he must never again drink anything with alcohol in it. No day at a time there. It's no further drinking, total abstinence. And that's the step 1. What we later came to see was step 1. Number 2, he must surrender himself absolutely to God, realizing that himself there is no hope. So step 2, 3. And number 3, not only must he want to stop drinking permanently, he must remove from his life other sins such as hatred, adultery, and others which frequently accompany alcoholism. Unless he will do this absolutely, Dr. Bob Smith and his associates refuse to work with him. And that's the one I really wanted to show you at this stage. We'll come back to the others later, but that's the one I wanted to show you, number 3. Not only must he want to stop drinking permanently. Do you want to quit drinking forever? Do you want to quit using forever? Not only must he want to stop drinking permanently, he must remove from his life other sins such as hatred, adultery, and others, which frequently accompany alcoholism. By the way, if you've ever engaged in hatred or adultery, they should be on your defect list. I hope they are, if that applies. Unless he will do this absolutely, Dr. Bob Smith and his associates refuse to work with him. So this is the, you might say, is the crucial turning point in our program, where you are now, steps 6 and 7. Are you willing to have God remove from you all your defects of character? Okay, so I'm going to put that to you as a formal question. And those of you who have completed your defect and asset list, I would like you to answer yes or no in the WhatsApp group. So here is the question. Are you now ready to let God remove from you all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? Are you now ready to let God remove from you all the things which you have admitted are objectionable? Yes or no? Okay. Okay, so we've got a good few yeses there. Let's just, as just for information, let's just do, I'd like you to do a count. Count how many defects you are talking about here. and just put a number into the WhatsApp group. So we've got some idea about how many defects you're talking about today. Just have a quick count up. Okay, now Prem Kumar, you clearly haven't been to the previous workshop. And while it's great for you to surrender 19 defects, you will see from what other people are putting up, that's really insufficient in terms of the work that we've been doing. You know, it's fine, you can stay in the workshop, but we're talking about going a lot deeper than 19 defects here. Okay. So I'm pleased to see that the majority of you are over 100. I'm thinking of starting an 100+ club for people with more than 100 defects. As I say, I personally have 200 and the fellowship record is 400. So we're just beginning to understand this. Okay. So I'd like to know, okay, good. I'm more than 180. That's much better. So no shortening, thank you. Just referring back to let's just put yeah, I'll just read this to you. This is from item 34. Selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. I could just put selfishness and self-centeredness on my defect list and leave it at that. But it then says, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. In this workshop, we actually identify the 100 forms. That's what we're doing. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We want to see the scale of the problem. Now, why do we want to see the scale of the problem? Because we need to understand that it's absolutely impossible for me to work on my defects. It's absolutely impossible for me to do anything about my defects. And it's not my job. My job is to identify them, uncover them, identify them, own up to them, humbly ask God to remove them, and then let him get on with his job, which is removing the defects of character that stand in the way of my usefulness to him, and for me to practice a little bit every day the countervailing virtues. So we work on our assets. We let God work on our defects. It's impossible for me to do anything about my defects. I've got over 200. It's absolutely impossible. It's a problem only God can solve. And that's a really important realization. Okay, now what we're going to do now is we're going to go straight on to do step 7. This is reading 44. So we've asked the question, are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things that we had admitted objectionable? Can he now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. When ready, we say something like this: my Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. We have then completed step 7. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. Now, those of you who've been on the previous workshop will understand what I mean when I say we're going to adopt the prayer position. So this is a position which demonstrates with your body your surrender to God. Kneeling is recommended, but other forms of prayer posture are perfectly acceptable. It's up to you what you do. So we're going to invite you to adopt the position, to invite the higher power of your understanding to be present, and then we will make the surrender together, the 7-step surrender. Okay, so please adopt the position. I will do the same. And now invite the higher power of your understanding to be present in the room to witness you making this surrender. Seventh step prayer. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. Thank you, everybody. That's step 7 done. So please turn back to page 3. And against steps 6 and 7, we can now write today's date. And please note the follow-up actions. For step 6, ask yourself, what defects am I still unwilling to surrender? And you may find later on today we're going to see how to do a step 11 inventory. And you may find defects coming up again and again, persistent defects. And it's important to ask ourselves, am I really willing to surrender this? Am I willing to have God remove it? Because a defect that I'm not willing to surrender will crash my program, will take me back out again. This is a step that people balk at. I did for 5 years. I balked at the step. So vigilance, keep an eye on that one. Now, then under the, step 7, to surrender your full list of defects to God for 14 days. Okay, now I'm going to explain to you how to do that, how to surrender your full list of defects. And for this, we need this 7-step prayer. So if you just got that in front of you, so you can just see that as I'm explaining this. So we do what we've just done now. We adopt the position. We invite the higher power of understanding to be present. And then we begin the 7-step prayer. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. And at that point, after the word fellows, you might want to put a little arrow in there just to remind you. We say, in particular, please remove my selfishness, my laziness, my possessiveness, my ambition, my gossiping and masturbation, adultery, using pornography, lying, cheating, stealing, and on down through the list until we get to the bottom. And then we say, and replace them with honesty, kindness, generosity, and you go down the list of assets until we get to the bottom. And then we say, grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. Okay. And that's with the full list. That's not with the shortened list of 19. That's with the full list of 180 or whatever it is. So it takes a little while to do this, but it is sort of hammering home to ourselves, getting ourselves out of denial about the scope of the problem and our need for God's help to deal with this. And to do that for 14 days. Okay. And to start with, I'm going to ask you to do that once now with your partner. Okay. So Some of you will have your original partner will be on the call, and that's great. Some of you will not yet have a partner to do this with. So I'm going to ask you, please, to partner up and then follow out this instruction. To call your partner, adopt your preferred prayer position, invite your higher power to be present in the room with you. Begin praying the 7th step prayer until you get to, "Of my useful to you and my fellows," and there insert, "In particular, please remove my," and then read out your full list of defects. And replace them with, and here read out your full list of assets. "Grant me strength so I go out from here, do your bidding, amen." And then witness your partner doing the same, and then return to the workshop. Okay. So there are people available to partner. If you're available to partner, please do what Alex has just done in the WhatsApp group. And I would like you to be back on the call, please, at 6 o'clock. Back on the call, well, at 6 a.m. London time. So that's just over half an hour from now. Okay. Now, as a tip here, if overnight you've thought of anything else, any secrets, any dark secrets that you would like to share, you could also share that with your partner. Get that off your chest. Okay. So I hope that's clear what the instructions are. If anybody is not sure what to do, the details are in the WhatsApp group. But if you're not sure what to do, I can now take questions, but then I will stop the recording and just take a bit of a break myself. Okay, so if anybody has a question, now is the time to ask it. Okay, so a defect should only be mentioned once, and an asset should only be mentioned once. So the answer for all the asset for all fears is trust in God, or confidence, or courage, or resilience, or fortitude. But they only need to go in the asset list once. Okay, you can have lots of fears, but trust in God, confidence, courage, resilience, fortitude can just be there once. Okay. Yes, you can partner up now and drop off the call. All right. I think we're done. Nobody's asking any questions. Good. So I'm going to have a cup of tea, and I'll see you back here in just 30 minutes.
Nicholas?
Yes?
May I have a question still?
Is it about this assignment?
Yes, it's about wrapping up with a partner, finding a partner.
Yes.
Because I had this situation that I found a partner, but not from this group.
That's okay.
And he's sleeping probably still, because it's quite in the morning in Poland. So I texted him, and I'm waiting for the answer, but I'm texting him now, but probably he won't be available now. So if I do it later during the day?
No, do it with somebody off the WhatsApp group.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, we need to be more than open. We need to be actually in need of a partner. Partner up quickly as you can. Not that much time to do this exercise. All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's turn to page 3. And And let's just consider for a minute, go back to step 5, and just consider what step 5 involves. It involves admitting to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Now, I think that what you've just done now is exactly that. You have admitted to God, to yourself, and to another human being the exact nature of your wrongs. That is the list of defects. And as far as I'm concerned, that's as thorough a step 5 as anyone can do. And so I just wanted to, I mean, I know you've probably got yesterday's date or a previous day's date on against step 5, but you might consider today as being the day when you actually completed your 5th step. There's something about this method of working is that it's a sort of combined 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. It's all sort of kind of tied up together. And I think that's the part of the reason for that is that in the early days, you know, one was expected to make a kind of a confession, and that over time, to make it clear, that's been opened up into different phases, as it were, making the inventory, admitting to it, becoming entirely ready to have God remove the defects, and humbly asking him to remove it. All of that at one point was really one thing, which was the thing that I showed you before, really. Not only must he want to stop drinking permanently, he must remove from his life other sins such as hatred, adultery, and others which frequently accompany alcoholism. That's really what this central part of the program is all about. So now we're going to go on to step 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. This is reading 45. It's immediately after the passage on step 7. Now we need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. We have a list. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. We have a list of all persons we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. Aha. That's interesting. We made it when we took inventory. We subjected ourselves to a drastic self-appraisal. Now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris which has accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Remember, it was agreed at the beginning that we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol, victory over our addiction. So are you now willing to go out and repair the damage done in the past? If we look at this step on page 3, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. This is actually possibly the most difficult step. This is the step at which I would say most people, the largest percentage of people balk. Why? Because there's going to be someone on our list who we are not willing to make an amend to. And that again, like the defect where I'm willing to surrender or the secret we're not willing to share, this is a block on recovery. If there's one person on our list that we're not willing to make amends to, then that will block our recovery. So, probably there are some misgivings as we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we have hurt. We may feel difficult about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. Let us be reassured. To some people, we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature on our first approach. We might prejudice them. At the moment, we are trying to put our lives in order. This is not an end in itself. Our real purpose, this is 47, our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. That's the whole point of this. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. Now, we can't be of maximum service to God and the people about us if we are harboring resentments and hatred in our heart, unforgiveness, bitterness. We can't be of maximum service to God if we're hiding because of the guilt we feel. We can't be of maximum service to God if we are afraid. We're hiding, cowering in fear. This is why we need to walk through our resentments, our fears, and our guilts, and actually repair. It's a very powerful thing to do this. It's really not like therapy as I've experienced it or heard it talked about, which is about somehow getting us to become comfortable with our fears and our guilts and our resentments. It's about actually letting them go and walking through our fears. It's about righting wrongs. It's a very powerful piece of work that we're looking at doing here. And the first stage of this is to make a list of all those we've harmed. And it says we have a list of people we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. Okay, so I'm going to now show you the next template. These templates, by the way, they all come from Clarence Schneider, to me via Bill B, and from me on to you. And these were the templates that were given by Clarence Schneider to Bill B for him to work the 12 steps. And he worked them with Clarence. Clarence, as you will recall, was a sponsor of Dr. Bob. He was a major force in the Cleveland area, which is where AA really took off for the first time. It didn't really take off in Akron or New York. It took off. Mushroom cloud took off in Cleveland. And Clarence Schneider was the main man there. So this performer, which is on pages 14, 15, 14, 15, and 16, consists of 6 columns. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how to use this, and then I'm going to give you an assignment to go off and do for probably be half an hour, 20 minutes, something like that. Okay, so on the first column, we're going to put the names of all those that we've harmed. So that will be people we have hated, resented, people that we have feared, people that we feel guilt towards. In the second column, we're going to write a concise description of the harm done to that person. Putting out of our minds the harm they've done to us, which might be considerable, we're looking only at the harm we've done them. How do we get our own back on them? What did we do to harm them? Harboring hatred in our heart for the rest of our life, that's harmful. Gossiping, manipulating, controlling, getting up to all kinds of stuff. Stealing from them, could be all kinds of different ways that we've harmed these people to get our own back. And then in the third column, we can, in conjunction with our sponsors, write our suggested amend. This is what we're suggesting we're going to do to make this amend. And then there are these 3 columns. Okay, 3 little columns. All right, so I'm going to tell me how we use those 3 columns first. This is going into the WhatsApp group. So column 4, if I put opposite a name in column 4, I put a little circle. It means this person is either dead, a former sexual partner, or another person whom I cannot approach directly because they or someone else could get harmed. So the reason we include former sexual partners here is that there's a danger when we approach a former sexual partner that they could be harmed again sexually. Column 5. I don't know where this person is and will find it hard to find out. So this is for people, this is to indicate that the person concerned, I don't know where they are, and it's not going to be easy for me to find them. And then column 6 is for everyone else. And so against each name, we put a little circle in one of those 3 columns. Okay, and I'll show you a little bit more about how that works later. Okay, but essentially, this is a way to distinguish people that we're going to make direct amends to from people that we're going to make only indirect amends to. By definition, we can only make indirect amends to somebody who is dead, to a former sexual partner, or another person whom I cannot approach directly because they or someone else could get harmed. So, what I'm going to ask you to do now, again, we can drop off the call. I think this will take about 15 minutes. So just give me time to eat my breakfast as well. We're going to drop off the call for 15 minutes. And I want you to complete this pro forma. And this far, I want the names on the first column and the circles in columns 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Now, where do I get the names from? You get the names of your 4th step inventory. I want you to transfer every single name without exception from your 4th step inventory onto this template. Don't miss anyone out. Now, I know that some of you will be screaming now, oh, but I didn't hurt them. Put them on the list. That's the assignment. Okay. So, now I'm going to put those instructions into the WhatsApp group. There we are. Transfer all the persons and institutions from pages 7, 8, 9, and 10, that's your 4-step inventory, into the first column on pages 14, 15, and 16. Enter each name just once, space them out, add the names of any other people or institutions that you know you have harmed, complete column 2 and 3 for one person or institution on your list, and complete columns 4, 5, and 6 with a 0 against each name.
I don't know, you're going on Rajan, but you're just opposite. I go where DMart and all the price I went because commodity we don't get pure much like
Okay, so that's the assignment. I'm actually going to give you 20 minutes because that's a little bit more than 15 minutes worth of work. So please come back on in 20 minutes from now. 20 minutes from now with that assignment completed, please.